At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast is now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and click that subscribe button to never miss an episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. This is episode 77, everybody. And I am one of your hosts this week, Wrestling Chris G. And on the other line with me this week is my round one buddy. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
So does that mean you're going to have a different co-host every round? I mean, I'm fine with that. This wasn't run by me, and that's fine.
Well, technically, so far we do have a special guest for 3 of these episodes so far, and hopefully, as long as I lock things down, we'll have some more. But coming back to the show, as I spoke last week, is good old Karl Dutton. Karl, how are you doing?
Not bad at all. Continuing to plug along in the world that we live in. Continue to provide entertainment, as you guys are. It's a world where people need things to listen to at home these days. So.
Yes, we really do. How is everything out there, by the way? Because I haven't been keeping up with anything outside of really the...
Oh, it's the same as you guys. It's a case of... everybody getting boosted and stopping this new variant that is sounds like a transformer, the Omicron, and that is like more transmittable, but makes it so that most people get less sick, and it's just dealing with all that, and everybody saying we're gonna go back into lockdown, which hopefully doesn't happen again, but. I, as my day job, work retail, so I have just worked for the entire thing anyway, so it makes very little difference to my life other than the fact I have to wear a mask when I go onto the shop floor.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's funny because me and my family, we're very careful with what we do and the people that we interact with. And a couple weeks ago on the show, I had told everybody on the Christmas holiday, me and my whole family, we got sick and we caught the Omicron variant of COVID, and it sucked because I caught mine and I started coming down with symptoms the day before Christmas, on Christmas Eve. That is when I got sick. Yes, so the perfect timing, right? So.
Yeah, see, mine and my family have not had it. I know distant relatives or step relatives who've had it, but none of me and my close family touch would have had it yet. And we've been able to just have Christmas as normal, and I'm still planning my birthday party as normal in a couple of weeks. So,
happy early birthday!
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, and so to let our audience know, people that have not or that did not listen to previous episodes and that are new to you, and shame on you guys for not listening.
Yeah, shame on them, really, honestly.
for not listening to any of those. But kind of tell our fine folks just a little bit. You don't have to go in full detail. If they want to, they can listen to the Kangaskong episode. But what have you been up to lately, Karl? And what new things do you have in the works?
Just continuing to get things out there. I do the Scyther podcast audio dramas, which are a collection of fan audio dramas, which are based on properties that, if I made money off them, would get me completely sued and taken off the air. But as I say, I need to get back to doing original stuff. But for now, the X-Men series and the Power Rangers series are the really popular ones. The Power Ranger series keeps going out, every month, every couple of months. There's a new episode out there. We're getting towards the end of season 2 now. We've kind of wrapped up our current big story arc we were doing, where we're adapting stuff from, season 2, season 3, some stuff from the comics with Lord Draken coming into it, and it's been a lot of fun doing that. And on top of that, we're getting the new X-Men episodes out there finally. It's been, since May since I put one up. But the X-Men continues to be super popular because it's X-Men, especially since our last episode was Rogue, who was a very popular character.
Yes.
And we've got to that point with X-Men now where we're doing, like, the series. Like, our last 3 episodes were Days of Future Past, God Loves Man Kills, Rogue's origin story, and now we're doing the Wolverine miniseries from the 80s with Frank Miller, which is where he fights the Hand in Japan and the Silver Samurai and all that stuff. So it's all very iconic stuff right now. Thank God I've got a new guy, Rick, who helps me with the writing. Sometimes I feel like I can't change Claremont stuff because I'm like, oh, it's too good. Whereas back in the day when I was doing the first season, I was like, oh my God, Stanley, what were you thinking? But it was the 60s.
All right. Well, thank you. And honestly, and as a personal fan of yours, I'm excited to hear those. So,
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. As you guys probably know, being content creators, you put hours and hours of work into something. You put it up, and everybody goes, "When's the next one? When's the next one?" I'm like, "Listen to this one."
Exactly.
And X-Men has become kind of like the prestige graphic novel of our thing, like, because most of the voice actors in it are like working professional voice actors, and they're not scheduled on as free as they used to be. And I dedicate a lot of my time to the Power Ranger series because I want to make that one more consistent because it's more kind of episodic or serialized. X-Men's become kind of where it's only out every few months, but when we put one out, it is like a longer episode that takes more time, and it's almost like having a movie as opposed to a series at this point.
Yes, and I do love your X-Men, and I Power Rangers is close to my heart, so I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Like I love Power Rangers, and I love the voice actors that you have on there. So keep up the good work, and I can't wait to hear what else you have in store for us with the Power Rangers. And people that are listening to this podcast, we actually just recorded this a couple weeks ago, so you can go on over. I will have the link for his podcast in our description, and all of you fans can go on over there if you're already not fans and click and give him a listen. So
you may listen out. You may hear some familiar voices on there. These guys did send in some sporting roles on one episode a few months back. The only reason I didn't use it was just because the audio quality, and there was a couple of actors who just a little bit better on the lines. But I'm happy to put anybody in there, and you don't know who might turn up.
All right.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, we're just a couple of schmucks with a couple of microphones. These people,
Oh no, it was good. It was just in places it sounded like you guys were on the phone to each other, and as I commented when we got on this thing now, you guys sound a lot better this time. So I can tell that this time it would be much higher quality.
Yes,
it's almost like we're figuring out what we're actually trying to do here. It's like...
we're figuring out this whole podcast game.
It's like if you're in a scene and with audio dramas you want to create an image in somebody's mind. If suddenly somebody's audio quality is like not matching all the others, makes people go, "Whoa, wait, okay, have they rang in from the next room?" Like,
Yeah,
so that was the only reason that I didn't use your guys' stuff. And as I say, I'd be happy to have you on again.
Okay. I have listened lately to a few like narrative-driven podcasts, and like with the more frequency of stuff being remote and being in the same room being a rarity, you can really start to pick out like, oh, this person didn't have the most secure connection, and they sound like they're coming through from a tin can, or you can definitely tell that they're in their walk-in closet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah, when I first started, some of the I would just go, "Oh wow, it's somebody reading my lines, awesome." Whereas now I'm like, "Oh no," I like to keep the immersion there, and because all the regulars in the show have really good setups, it's very noticeable when somebody comes in and it's just a laptop mic or an iPhone or something.
Yes.
stick out like a sore thumb for sure.
I know. So and people that have listened to our show all the way through, I mean, they can tell the difference in our audio quality. I mean, I used to have a low beeping noise in the background, which was highly annoying. And luckily in some of the remastered, I was able to kind of eliminate a lot of that back noise, but it was still kind of there. But yeah, going forward, our quality is a lot better, and I do love this Discord recording sessions that we've been having lately. So yeah. But all right. Everybody, today's episode is episode 77. It is called Round One Begin, or translated from Japanese, Pokemon League Begins, Waterfield. And so I'm sure everyone knows which episode this one is and which Pokemon gets used in this week's episode. But outside of that,
Yeah, we'll go into that. Oh my lord.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a water field, everybody. So what Pokemon should he have used? I'm just throwing that out there, but no.
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Anybody who's ever played any of the games ever is like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't his choice. It was a randomizer. He just kind of got a little boned.
He literally has an electric type walking around with him 24/7.
Yes,
No.
he has an electric type, and where the hell was Squirtle?
Well, no, he mentioned Squirtle, but then he's got that 10-year-old.
I guess,
ADD.
I guess we're
Somebody
going
else-
into this, but like, Krabby worked out, fantastic. But why was everybody in the water field using water Pokemon? Everybody knows if you go against the water gym leader, Misty, in the original game, you use an electric type. Ash literally has an electric type with him right there. Every single one would have been dead in one shot. They're super effective. Weakness. That's how the game works.
Exactly. I would go back to that first forest in versions red and blue just to find that one-off Pikachu that was so hard to find in that forest. But I would get it. I would get that Thundershock, and I would go right over to Misty, and I'd be ready. So
Isn't also water weak to grass, if I remember right?
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Bulbasaur as well. Like, why were they all just using water Pokemon just because it was the water arena? Okay.
So
I hate to have seen what he would have had to do on the ice field.
oh wait, I was about to say just wait until next week. Next week is Fire and Ice. So
Please tell me he doesn't pull out Charizard.
I think Charizard comes towards the ending. I think Charizard is what almost cost him the entire Pokemon League. But I have not watched next week's episode in quite some time, so I'm gonna watch that pretty soon. But I'm guessing that's he's either gonna use he might use Charizard, or he might what's another Pokemon that he can use or stupidly use? What, Bulbasaur?
Ice isn't a type in the original one, so like
Right.
anything apart from Charizard would be fine.
Yes. So
Assuming you just have to match your Pokemon to the type. They never said that as the rules, but maybe that is the rules, that if you're in the water field, you have to use water Pokemon. If they'd said that, I'd have been, yeah, cool. But otherwise, it's like, no, use the one that's like super effective against them. That's just how you win the game. Also, shouldn't Charizard obey him now? Because like he has all the badges? I guess that's just the game.
See, yeah, that's what I thought, because I was looking at it from a game's perspective, and it's like, okay, he has all the badges, he should clear the last hurdle. But I guess if you're a dick, a couple of pieces of tin don't
make him
stop you from being a dick.
Yeah.
So, all right. Right before we do get into the episode, this episode actually premiered December 17th, 1998 in Japan, and here in the States, October 30th, 1999. And Doug, my date is from 2003. Am I going first or second this week, my brother?
Kick it off, because mine is from 2016, and I've got story time.
Of course. All right. So mine's going to be short, quick, and to the point, because I wanted to do this the last time that we did it, but I did the whole Walt Disney purchase Lucasfilm. But this time, this was when Wicked, the Broadway show premiered in the Gershwin Theater, starring I'm gonna butcher her name, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. Oh, okay, there we go.
Hey, you did better than John Travolta at the Oscars. You know, so
Yeah, I did. So, but yeah, I personally went to go see this play back when I was actually all the way back when I was in high school. I went to go see it in 2006, I believe, with my theater class, and boy, that play was amazing. So I really enjoyed that play. It's the prequel to Wizard of Oz. So anyone that's out there that hasn't seen this play, try to dig it up somewhere. I'm sure it's on DVD or something at some point now. You would think so by now.
you would imagine.
So yeah, I'm still waiting for that. I'm trying to persuade my wife to go see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in New York, but she's like, no, they have a bunch of COVID out there. I was like, but we already had COVID. But she does not want to go to New York right now. So I think I might have to pass on that. What do you have for us this week, Doug?
So, in 2016, on this date, October 30th, the Chicago Cubs win Game 5 of the World Series against the then Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians, because, PC. Um, and, I mean, I could go into excruciating detail because as soon as I saw that this date, I just had a flood of, memories. So I'm going to try to do the abridged version because otherwise this just becomes a 2016 Cubs podcast. So my family and I had gone down to visit my brother in Kentucky the night of Game 3, and I went out with my brother and a couple of his friends to go to a bar, pre-game, and then we went back to the house and watched the game, and they lost 1-0, and it was like, okay, that's kind of disappointing, but one game, and then they got absolutely shithoused in Game 4. So they were tied 1-1 coming into Chicago. So obviously they leave back for Cleveland. They're down 3-1. If they lose one more game, they're done. And you never know when you're going to get back to the World Series. And so we were heading home, and this was the night of, well, it was October, so it had to have been a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Okay.
And I remember you specifically, and the only reason I remember it is because you very rarely do this anymore, but I had gone to a rest stop and, get some snacks or whatever. And I came back, I had 3 missed calls and 2 texts from you. So I'm like, what in the world? And you're like, I was just making sure that you were still coming. And I was like, well, we're in Indiana. I mean, I'm gonna do my best to get back. You're like, oh, okay. So I got back probably about an hour before showtime. And I was like, hey, is the invite still open? And you're like, yeah, come on over. And so I grabbed a bag of chips and I got in the car and got to your place. And I walked in and I remember this vividly. You're like, hey, how are you? You look tired.
Okay.
And our good pal C-Note was there, and him and I were both kind of down because our team's down 3-1. It's possibly the last game. We're not watching. I think we both kind of decided we were going to go to your house because we didn't necessarily want to watch because if they were going to lose, So I'll fully admit I was half watching the show. I was
Watching the score.
Chris and I were mostly on his phone, and the show ends and they're winning. I believe it was 3-2. Yeah, because that was the final. And they're winning, and it's like the 8th inning. So we say our goodbyes, and I remember walking in just in time to see the final out. So we won. We staved off elimination, and I'm not going to go any further because I don't know when any of these other episodes are going to fall, and I have 2 potential dates. that I could use. So I'm not going to spoil them, but obviously, if you know, you know.
Yes, you do.
But so yeah, if we could just wake everybody else up right now, and we can get on to the Pokemon, because I just had a bunch of memories as I was watching, because I watched the episode last night and I was like, I should see if I could knock out my date, and it was like October 30th, and I was like, oh shit, it's on.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
It's not all the time we get a nice little story of what's happened in the past, especially when it comes to all of us hanging out. So thank you. But
Right.
is everyone ready to jump on into this week's Pokemon episode? Are you ready, Carl?
Yes, sure. Yeah. I will admit, I was really annoyed with Netflix because Netflix only the Indigo League. I don't know if it's the same with you guys. It only goes up to like episode 44.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
no.
so like literally, I had to find it on Dailymotion. So
Ooh.
they
Oh.
Oh, you don't have access to Pokemon.com?
Netflix literally has like the original Indigo for 44 episodes, and then it has the newest one, and it has Sun and Moon, and that's it over here.
Oh.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, we go based off of I wish I would have known that before. We go they actually have the episode on Pokemon.com. Right?
I don't know if that's geo-locked or anything. I've never tried it.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
I
you know,
yes.
like South Park episodes, it's a similar thing.
So, all right. Let's see. Let's get on into this week's episode. And we start this week's episode actually pretty nicely with a recap of last week's episode. And they started off with almost the death of Ash Ketchum when he was getting burned by Moltres' flame just to come out unscathed because apparently Moltres can um, control the temperature of its body type. But we go straight from that, and we start this week's episode with um, they were calling for Ash to come back over to the TV. Doug, you want to take this?
We're calling for him to come over to the TV.
Oh, I'm sorry. My thing skipped ahead. I'm so sorry. Okay,
I'm
no.
very glad that as a kid, I'm glad I didn't get this episode, last week's episode, because like you're like, oh yeah, they're finally at the Pokemon League, and then it's about them trying to steal a torch, like nothing happens, and then one of the legendary Pokemon shows up, so it's okay.
So
Yes.
it's okay. Yeah. One of the co-hosts on this show lied to the people and said that last week was the start of it. And I said, no, this was a filler, and they get away with it because they're around the Pokemon League. And you're like,
Well, compared to all the filler episodes that we had to go through just to get to that moment, I mean that.
Well, 'cause it's kind of like the Olympics, isn't it? Because they got the flame and they got the opening ceremony and stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean,
village.
I
yeah.
guess if like a T-Rex came back at our Olympic ceremonies, people would be pretty impressed.
So, all right. So everyone in Palatown is currently watching the TV, and of course, they're all looking at the TV, and they see Ash and everyone on the TV, and Ash is like, "Oh, look there! It's Ash! Hi, Ash!" As if he could hear her. I'm like, "What? What?"
Oh, I mean,
I also love that the cameraman like moved away from the interview and was following the people in the background. That happens.
like,
Yes.
oh, there's a Pikachu on some kid's shoulder. You don't see that every day.
For real. It doesn't have a Pokeball. But we go straight from that to the inside of the Pokemon League, so that Ash can check in, and he's also going to find out who he or what field he is going to be battling in, and then Brock kind of jumps on in. Doug, you want to take this next part?
So Ash says, "Oh, I'd like to get checked in," and Brock immediately cuts and says, "While he's checking in, I can check out your beautiful
Smile.
your beautiful." I was gonna say he said figure, but I was like, you can't get that pervy. He said, "I could check out your beautiful smile." He said, "I could do that all day," and Misty pushes him out.
Yeah, I take it they don't write Brock like this these days because this is a lot.
No, I don't think you could. I think Brock has to be either
PG.
severely
He's a
insane.
kid, so it could be like, oh, it's cute. But if he's like 16 or above, yeah, this is creepy.
It's
He's
very
like
creepy.
he's like right on the line. He's like 15, 16. So it's creepy in 99 2000. It'd be unacceptable now.
I mean, he's a 16-year-old following a 10-year-old around on his journey.
2 10-year-olds.
Yeah, that's true.
2 10-year-olds, yes. Misty, the gym leader in training.
Yeah, imagine if that's how it worked in the game, where the gym leaders just start following you around like Pikachu.
End of the game, you're followed around by 8 to 10 people, depending on if you're Gary. You have this parade of people behind you.
So, all right.
That would be a nightmare. So, Misty pushes Brock away. Won't be the last time this episode. I kind of enjoyed this little runner. It's checkout time for you, Brock. And yeah, so
I repeated that animation twice. I noticed as well, because when he came back and said something, they like literally repeated the same gag with the same push and Ash's face. It was literally the same frames.
I appreciated that as well. I was like, that's lazy, but I mean, I get it because
Hey, look, I am adapting Power Rangers. I know all about reusing footage to pad things out.
So I mean, yeah. So Ash gets checked in, and then he's asking this woman questions, and which is fair because it's her job. But unfortunately, every question he had, Brock had an answer because he's got a book.
Yeah, which was weird because he brought up the whole the thing about the different lands or whatever. He brought them up, and then it appeared on the screen as well. So I guess his device is paired to the TV screen,
like a PowerPoint presentation.
For real, and this was again as you alluded to, Carl. Basically the same frame. He brought out his book and said that that they get to fight on these different types of fields, and it's completely random. And Misty just comes over and just was like, he asked the lady, get out of the frame, Brock, and she just pushes him completely off to the side. And it's Ash's turn to figure out which field he's going to go into. Carl, do you want to take this ball right here?
It's like the elimination chamber, do.
Yeah,
you press the button. What were the types? It was like earth, water, fire.
Yeah,
there was ice, right?
Yeah,
ice, yeah.
Yes.
It's more elements than I want to see the electric field where every time your Pokemon falls down they get electrocuted.
It's an electrified steel cage match like in TNA.
That would be very close to being dog fighting, with the show is already very close to already. But yeah, again, I wish they'd said, okay, you're fighting in the water zone, so you can only use water Pokemon. Just one little line would have been okay, cool. But the entire time I was watching the other people fight, and they were using water, and I was like, why? And then he was like, oh, I've got to use a water Pokemon. I was like, why? Use Pikachu. He even says later on, oh, I'll use Pikachu as a backup. No, if you could use Pikachu. Every single attack will kill a water Pokemon in one shot. That's how the game works.
And I do believe, and I'm sure we'll get there, but I'm sure in the battle, Brock or Misty yells out to Ash, change your Pokemon out for Pikachu, and he's like, nah, I got this. And
but they were the ones earlier who were like, oh yeah, you've got to use a water one, why don't you use my water Pokemon type?
Yeah,
no,
and I didn't.
No.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Misty straight up asked Ash if he wants to use some of her water Pokemon, and I'm sitting there going, that can't be allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to.
But then he does.
But
then he does, because he does it with Oak.
Well, but that's his Pokemon, though.
And what's weird about it is not only is he doesn't pick the correct thing. This if you took a water type into Misty's gym in the original game, or whoever it is in the subsequent games, you'd win, but it'd be much harder. This is teaching badly how to play the game. Is what this is happening.
Yeah,
and it works. And if for some reason this Krabby / Kingler one-shots everything for some reason, it would have made way more sense if it was Pikachu.
It would have been a 1-2 knockout. But actually no, because if you think about it, he had Mandy had an executor, didn't he? That's
Yeah.
a leaf type. Okay, so no, he didn't.
No,
have to,
that works. But then Ash had a Bulbasaur as well, which is also super effective against water.
Yeah,
Like, I have a feeling the anime writers didn't always want to follow the game because otherwise it would just be a pretty boring show, I suppose. Although they did, then again, they did just have crappy one-shot things. So what's the difference?
for real. They're like, yeah, we don't want to add all this extra anime in here. Let's just keep the one Pokemon there. But
I mean, come on, we've only got like 18 minutes as it is. I mean, let's not.
so from here,
Because going from watching the earlier episodes, which were much more kind of plot based, I was impressed with these ones. They do actually use like the moves from the games and stuff, so it's much more of it's almost like watching the gym battles from the 3D versions.
yes, kind of like what was that game back for the N64? Pokemon Stadium.
Pokemon Stadium.
That was
That's
the
what this
game.
reminded me of. Yeah.
Love that.
So, all right. So back in the anime, so Ash gets the water stadium, and then the lady is like, okay, and this is who you're going to be challenging. And Ash takes one look at this dude and just gets all cocky. He's like, oh, that's the guy I'm gonna beat. And I wouldn't be so cocky at first, Ash. I mean, it's only gonna take
Kind of
you
my problem with this episode is that he's cocky and he doesn't listen to any of his friends or any of the advice, and he wins. And it's a little bit like, I'm not sure. I'm sure. I know he needs to progress in the tournament, but what are the lessons we're teaching here? Screw everybody else. Do what you think.
Exactly, and it's a lesson I actually told my son 2 days ago. So we were in the car and he was playing the Pokemon trading card game on his phone, right? Mm-hmm. And there was some type of achievement where if he got 8 wins in a row, he gets this like super chest in the game, and it comes with like a bunch of Pokemon packs that he can add to his collection. And he got up to 7 wins, and this boy is in the back seat of the car going, man, I am killing all these kids. He's like, I am unstoppable. And I was like, Jordan, just calm down. And I kid you not, he got to match 8 and then just got shitted on. And all you you can just hear him so pissed off. He's cheating. No. He's like, and then he just threw his phone on the ground and we were like, what's wrong? He's like, I lost. I was like, see what happens when you get cocky?
Where did he pick that up?
That's straight from me.
Yeah.
But
I seem to remember certain Madden games where you're like, well, it's not my game. First of all, I mean, if we were on my system, we'd be fine.
You know what, Doug? We don't bring that up anymore. So
okay.
So all right, back to the anime. So they after he looks at the guy, the lady's like, okay, the guy's name is, I believe, Mandy.
Andy the Magnificent.
Great progressive for the show in 1998-99, but I did not think a guy when they showed that face and said Mandy, I'll be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't look at that and was like, oh, that name fits him. I mean, they could have picked
Mandy is like a girl's name, and at least over here it is.
It's I mean, it is over here too.
Short for Amanda, surely.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean,
So, and I kind of had there's nothing against it, everybody, people that are listening to this podcast. It's just, they dubbed this episode. They could have named this character any name out there. And they looked at him and said,
I am not putting homophobia past the writers in the turn of the millennium.
No. So they looked at this guy and was like, Mandy will work. Mandy the Magnificent. And
they clearly wanted the alliteration, so you wanted an M name. And
how about Magnus or
Maxwell
Marvin?
or Matthew or
any?
I mean, all power for power to you can have whatever name you want to. Just I like I said, I just was very impressed with how non-binary this character was. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was too. And she then goes on to tell Ash, okay, we'll be back here by 1 o'clock and good luck. And you have to be back here by 1 o'clock on the dot in order, or you're basically going to be disqualified. So I do like how strict they are here in the Pokemon League. And then Carl, you want to go over this funny Team Rocket segment that pops up here with the TV camera?
So they're undercover as journalists to try and steal people's Pokemon, and they've got these armbands on that are almost like they stand for something. It's like the something best police.
The
LCN.
I believe it was the lovely Champions Network or something like that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, combined with Meowth's disguise, which thank God his mustache was a bit longer, but with that armband around his arm, I could not help but think he was dressed as Hitler. I'm not gonna lie.
I can see that. Oh man,
was not expecting that today.
Yes, they go after this guy and they say, okay, what Pokemon you got? And he brings up 3 normal types. So it's like Duo and
Raticate.
Raticate. It's for all the very basic normal ones. I mean, they're not bad Pokemon, but they're like, oh, no, not good enough. And then they go and interact with Mandy, who is basically Gambit.
Yes, but with Pokeballs. Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
A very sort of effeminate with the flowers and stuff. And with the way they've written James in the past, I thought James maybe had a thing for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me these days. And so yeah, he's showing off his tricks to like all these spectators, and he has like Pokeballs, and they're like dissolving into like confetti, and he's just doing all these magic tricks, and then he has a Pidgey just fly out of his hand just out of nowhere, makes this little girl really happy. But I want to point this freaking thing out. He had a bunch of Pidgeys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Meowth goes on to look and say, he's like, I like this guy, but I like all the Pidgeotos that he has. Like, he didn't have one Pidgeotto in that frame. I was like, did the writers not know what they were translating over? And that was kind of a little that I had a little gripe.
Like the kids won't notice. It's one of those ones, one of the Pidgey ones. And also they just crapped on a guy for having 3 normal types. And then they're like, oh, this guy with his Pidgeotos. That's the same thing.
Pidgeotto. Well, see, but they're evolved, so they're at least a step up. But then you sit around and go, well, he had a Raticate, which is evolved. He had a Venomoth, which is evolved.
Yeah.
He had a Doe. Well, he had a Doe Duo. He didn't have a Doe Trio.
Yeah. So, all right, Doug, this next part. So when they go to interview Mr. I forgot his name. Just
Mandy the Astounding. We were giving him too much credit with Mandy the Magnificent.
Yeah.
So it literally wasn't for the alliteration. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we were trying to punch up their own material. Because Mandy the Magnificent would have made sense. So they go to interview him, and this is when we find out that it is the Lovely Charming Network, and Mandy's a little offended that they don't immediately know who he is, and he's like, "I'm Mandy the Astounding," and Jessie kind of defends the name, saying that she felt that it captured the essence of what we were trying to present, and Mandy just kind of brushes her off, and is like, "Well, if you're not a reputable network, then quite frankly, you're not worth my time." And he walks away, and Jessie has this good line of, "You better, not talk smack to me, or I'll make your teeth disappear." And like the switch flips, and they're like, they go from being concerned about like stealing his Pokemon to being like, I hope somebody comes along and crushes him, which we see play out here in a couple of minutes.
Like Ivan Ooze in the Lord Zed and Rita are like, go Rangers.
Oh, when they're in the snowball and they're like,
Yeah.
"Go Rangers, go, go Rangers,
We
go!"
recently did me and the cast races did a commentary on that movie. That was something.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna have to listen to that one. I would definitely 100% have to listen to that one. Did you do the whole full blown commentary for the entire movie?
Oh yeah, we watched the whole movie and all of us talked over it, and it was a lot of fun hearing because we basically had the equivalent cast because we had like our version of Rocky, Adam, Aisha, Tommy.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they were commenting on the episode along with me, just going what.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna sit down and listen to that. That is going on my reel for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he Mandy looks at them, and even though yes, as you just said, but he had that one line. He's like, I only talk to people that have viewers on their network, and he just walks away, and just Jesse and James are just like, this MFer, I want you to just get crushed, just like you said,
If
Doug.
this was made like 20 years later, they'd be on Twitch or YouTube or something, wouldn't they? But yeah, the whole thing here where they want to fight him and all that stuff. Although, what's so astounding about Mandy, because not to spoil it, but he gets pretty crushed by one crab.
Yeah, that has not been trained at all, mind
Just
you.
the way he said that. By one crab, he just completely wiped
That
out.
wasn't even his crab.
And the thing about it is, Krabby is so inexperienced and lives such a sheltered life in Oak's lab.
It's basically like Gary caught a level 1 Krabby and then immediately put it in Bill's computer, and then Oak traded it to Ash, and then somehow it won all these. And because it beat the first one, it got so much experience, it immediately evolved.
I do have to say, it is Ash's Krabby. He did catch that Krabby.
Wait,
even though he almost got beat for it. What's up?
No, that's Ash's Krabby. He caught him on
Oak
the beach.
said something about how Gary's just traded this Krabby to me or something.
Oh,
Didn't he?
he said, you're allowed to trade your Pokemon. In fact, Gary just did 2 for himself for his next battle.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I mixed those two together. So it's Ash's level 1 Krabby that he's just left with Professor Oak.
Yeah.
So unless Oak is like the equivalent to the daycare people on route whatever it is, I'm not sure how this works. This level 1 Krabby beat astounding Mandy's amazing stuff.
And not even just that, but this is the Krabby that Doug has had a gripe about ever since that episode. He had an extra spot on his belt and still sent and Krabby was gonna be number 6, and he sent Krabby away back over to Professor.
No. At the time that he caught Krabby, he had 6 because he still had Butterfree.
Oh, he did. He still had Butterfree, and then the Pokeball just vanished in thin air, right?
Right, and this is when we learned about the Pokemon transfer system and all that, and they said, well, you can trade whenever you want, and then Ash got real like little kid. He's like, I don't want to trade my Pokemon, and then he just lets, and then later he just let Butterfree be Butterfree, and it's like, okay, go to the next Pokemon Center, you can fill that spot. Nope.
He's just like with all of them, doesn't he? Other than Pikachu, he lets them all go eventually.
Yeah, for the most part,
he's not a great trainer. If we get down to brass tacks on Ash Ketchum, he's not great. I don't know why we're.
He's a better animal rights person, I suppose, rather than leaving them in a computer.
Yeah, but how good does it speak for animal rights that he just catches 15 Tauros in the Safari Zone and just lets them sit there?
Which is the majority of his Pokemon that we found out a couple episodes ago.
Why would you catch more than one? Okay.
So long story short, yeah, when he was at the Safari Zone, he was trying to capture other Pokemon, but every time he threw his Pokeball, a herd of Tauros would come into the frame, and the Pokeball would bounce off of one of the Tauros, and he would catch it. And he ended up catching like 15 different Tauros in the Safari Zone and didn't catch any other Pokemon there.
So now Ash can open a farm.
Yeah, he can.
Just have a ranch of Tauros.
And that's kind of what we see, because when they visit Oak's lab before they head off to supposedly train, and then they end up surfing and starring in a movie, we do see behind the lab there's a nice little pasture area, and we see the herd of toros running around. So to be fair, at least they're not penned up. He could at least carry one of them.
Yeah, he could. But I mean, and he will later on, because I believe he uses one of those toros in a battle. So, all right. So as we continue, this is when Ash, Misty, and Brock are walking down the walkway. Ash is kind of talking about his Squirtle, and Misty's like, "Well, you can't only have just one water Pokemon. You can use mine if you want." And then he starts to think to himself, and he's like, after all, he's like, Missy's like, water battles are my specialty. And Ash is like, thanks for the offer, but Squirrel can handle it all by himself. And then here comes Gary. And Gary just has a big old chip on his shoulder. And he's like, so.
He has a harem is what he has.
He has a harem of
or groupies, I guess.
Groupies. I don't know if I want
Is
to
he
think
also
about that,
10 though?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if I want to think about it.
And they're all
too
like
much.
full-grown women, well, teenagers.
Me and Doug was having a talk about this on the last episode. I'm not sure if Gary got a late start, because to me he looks like a teenager, and and I don't know. I mean, these women look a lot older than Gary. So I don't even want to go in to guess that, but I mean, Doug came up with, he's like, well, he is Professor Oak's grandson, so that probably makes him a celebrity by himself, and all these women are probably just kind of gold diggers if you think about it.
He dropped out of school and he was 16. It was like, oh, I'm going to go and do what all the 10-year-olds are doing.
Yeah.
When they both left Pallet Town for their journey, and Gary was in that sports car with all the women, was he driving or was he being driven?
He was being driven. He was being driven by one of the older women in the car.
So at least one of the girls is old enough to drive. So whatever that says about what's going on here.
And everyone's okay with it.
Yeah, this show would make a lot more sense if they were all 16, but
Just a lot less headaches.
So Gary jumps in and he's like, so Ashy boy, he's like, you're in the water field first I saw. And Ash is like, yeah, well, what are you in? And he's like, I'm gonna win my first battle because I'm on the ice field. And he's like, I really hope you win your first battle because it would be just terrible if you lost. And Pikachu's ears kind of perk up, and Ash is like, well, why is that? He's like, because I want the pleasure of beating you myself. And then you'll see what a real Pokemon master looks like. And then we get like a little montage of him just holding up two trophies with a winner flag right behind him, just full blown, just throwing it in Ash's face. And Ash just gets pissed. Doug?
He's like, I thought I had confidence. He picks his head up because he's being paged, to the nearest phone. And so he gets there and we see it's Oak, and he's like, is everything okay? And he's like, oh yeah, we saw you on TV and we just wanted to make sure that that everything was okay. And,
we get a back shot of all the people from Pallet Town with signs and stuff.
And,
screw Gary then, I guess. I mean, he has his fan club there, but he doesn't have a fan club at home, that's for sure.
For real.
That's like all of Pallet Town.
And then this is where we have the discussion about, transferring Pokemon and...
Whoa. Trading Pokemon is what he said. If he had been like, oh, you can use the computer system to transfer, it'd be like, okay, cool. He said, let's trade. Now, you can do this where you trade just sending, but that's not how the trading works. You're supposed to give a Pokemon for a Pokemon. That's not what happens.
Exactly.
You mean there's no take a Pokemon, leave a Pokemon tray?
Yeah, like I say, if Oak had said, here, I've got your Krabby, you got a spare, slot on your inventory. Here you go. If he had been like, Bill or whatever, fair enough. But he didn't. He said trade.
He does say trade, yeah. Which, yeah. I mean, clear
Which
as
doesn't
day.
even work because if it's ashes, yeah, it's more like Oak is like the guys that you leave it with to level up. The nursery people.
Well, the daycare people that you leave an egg and a random Pokemon with, and you hope to get, a
And
starter or whatever.
you want to, and I'm gonna continue my running joke until it gets old, even though I'm sure to you, Doug, it has gotten old already. But as Professor Oak is going to put Krabby back into the Pokeball, in the frame comes Mrs. Ketchum, and Ash, just like me, was like, "She's there." And he's like, "Mom, what are you doing at Professor Oak's house?" Well, we all know what she's doing over there. She's just
You
alone.
stop that. You cut that out. They're having a watch party. There's a banner in the background.
Hey, look,
Have the
everybody
super-
knows that's what's going on.
Come
Goodness sakes,
on,
don't you start, too.
come on, Doug.
Honest
She-
Trailers even made that joke 10 years ago.
She is always there. They take vacations together. Professor Oak visits Mrs. Ketchum's house while Ash is out because she's a lonely woman. Like, come on.
That would make a much better natural rivalry if Gary and Ash ended up being like stepbrothers.
Oh, that would be awesome. Come to find out, Gary in the future, after Gary loses his second Pokemon League, decides that he wants to follow in Professor Oak's footsteps and become a Pokemon professor or a researcher.
No, he can't. He's got to change his name. He's not a tree.
He's not a tree.
I love it.
Oh, for goodness sakes. So yeah, we get the trade discussion. We get the transfer. We get the trade, which is a transfer, but whatever, because Ash doesn't give anything to get Krabby. He just gets Krabby. Krabby gets there safe and sound.
Yeah, screw you, Squirtle. I've got a crab now.
Hey, I've got a crab now that I've only seen for 5 minutes when I caught him on the beach.
Yeah, screw the Squirtle that literally gave up being in a biker gang so he could join me, and somehow my Charizard has leveled up, but my Squirtle is still, it's single evolution, even though I'm at the Pokemon League.
I use my Bulbasaur as a Swiss Army knife, and he's yet to evolve.
Does Squirtle ever evolve?
No, I was just getting ready to say, spoiler bubble. Even in today's episodes, because I've watched some of the newer episodes on Netflix, Squirtle is still Squirtle, and so is Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur never evolved. Squirtle is now.
Ash is that kid. Ash is that kid who presses B on the evolution screen.
No, he gave up Squirtle. He gave up Squirtle to Officer Jenny, so that Squirtle can help train the Squirtles, like the Squirtle Squad and all the Pokemon force over there. And then Bulbasaur, what did he do with Bulbasaur?
Did Bulbasaur eventually go back to the garden?
No, I'm gonna look that up. I don't have that right off, but Bulbasaur did come back, and Charizard comes back every now and then too, because he ended up giving up.
They
Charizard
didn't get
as
enough
well.
experience to evolve, or they just never.
That's what it was. Bulbasaur doesn't want to evolve.
Yeah, we saw Bulbasaur was fighting it in that episode. He was like the only one that we've legitimately seen.
He's like for Doctor Who, he's like David Tennant. So they no, I'm staying the way I look.
Want it.
Yeah, but that's kind of weird. Squirtle is just never a rest. He just never does. So he's basically like Gary Coleman.
Yeah,
he just always
stays a kid forever.
For goodness sake! Oh boy.
So, okay, so we finally get the trade off, and Ash is walking away from the local. I'm not even going to call it a Pokemon Center. It just looked like a place with a bunch of telephones, and he's walking away from this place, and then he meets up with Mandy, and Mandy looks at him and he's like, "I am the astounding Mandy," and he's like, "You're my opponent," and Ash is like, "Yep, it's very nice to meet you." And Mandy doesn't even shake his hand when Ash puts his hand out. Mandy is like, he's like, I'm sorry, my hands are for Pokeballs, and he makes a Pokeball appear out of thin air. I was,
Not helping with the jokes there.
Not
I
at
know,
all. No, not even a little bit. Not even.
not even the slightest.
Boy.
I'm sure his hands are for Pokeballs, but
He's become quite accustomed to at least two of them.
So, but Misty gets pissed. She's like, it wouldn't hurt to shake hands before your Pokemon match, and Togepi is all happy, and freaking Mandy is like, that's an unfortunate word. I'm afraid your eager little friend will be no match for me, and just walks away. And he's like, lovely meeting you.
Again, gets beat inexplicably one shot every time by a crab.
Yeah, by a crab.
To be fair, it's basically like two crabs because that crab evolves as soon as it hits fresh air.
Yeah, because it was like a level 1 that beat like a level 20. That's how it works in the game. You just immediately get so much experience, it just evolves.
Yeah, remember that episode, Doug, with Paris?
Yeah.
Paris had no experience and just it thought it was the shit, and then finally evolved into a Parasect. So, but Ash gets pissed off. He's like, he just talked himself into the toughest match of his life. And Pikachu is like, yeah, Pika. And then we go into a nice little frame of them eating. And then they're trying to come up with a plan for what Ash is going to do in the Pokemon League. Carl, you want to take this part right here?
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, I mean, Krabby's untested. You sure you don't want to use, like, my Starmie? Like, no. And again, this entire time, I'm just like, just use Pikachu. Just use Pikachu. You will just win straight away. Like, I don't know. And then basically he gets Paige to go to the fight, right?
Yes.
And the two guys that are fighting don't get names. Like when they're called up, it's like, oh, it's Ash Ketchum and it's Mandy. Before that, it's like, and the green guy wins.
Yeah, because oh no, it was Gary. He looks over at the screen, and Gary had just won his first battle, and Ash is he's like, oh, Gary won, and he's like, well, naturally, winning to me is very important. As he's being interviewed, he's like, of course, in every Pokemon match, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. And the trainers I know are all real losers. And I was like, damn, on national TV, just putting another snipe at Ash because he's basically calling Ash a loser from Pallet Town. I was like, damn.
Then,
I feel like he would have met a lot more, though. You know, every time he walks up a road and somebody meets eye contact with somebody.
Yes.
Let's fight.
So
that's how the games work. You could barely walk 10 steps without running into a battle, especially when you first start.
I know. the beginning
don't make eye contact. Let's fight. No.
God damn it.
That's why I like these new Pokemon games for the Switch, because you can see the Pokemon before you battle it, and you can at least avoid the Pokemon if you're trying to get to a certain spot. Just walk around the Pokemon. Like,
I think I brought this up last time, but like, how do regular people survive in this world? Do they just go into the grass and they're just mowing the lawn and they get attacked by birds and have their eyes pecked out?
There's old man Johnson. He got jumped by the Spearow again.
So, and then we get the Who's That Pokemon, and it's Nidoran. And Doug, you want to go to the next scene?
So
yeah, this is where. Sorry. Just to say, this is where the guys are in it with where they don't get names. This is the bit here.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of very plain-looking guys. One guy's in a blue, just like a button-up, and one guy's just in a purple shirt. And we see that the
green trainer is using a Seeking.
They literally say on the announcer, the green trainer wins.
Yeah, the green trainer wins because we don't have time to flesh
the writers
this out.
could just have made any name there and it would have.
I mean, we've only got 10 more minutes in the episode. We still got to do Pikachu's jukebox. We don't have time to be fleshing out these ancillary characters.
Just write a name instead of green player or whatever.
For real.
But so we see Ash is getting ready. He's in the wings, and he's kind of he's starting to shake. And Misty calls him out on it, and he goes, "I'm not shaking. That's the stadium shaking."
And Brock is like, I can go for a chocolate shake.
And Misty's like, well, then freaking go. So Misty says her line about telling Brock to go get his chocolate shake, and then we see this bright white light. Like Ash is literally walking into Mecca. And he walks out there, and we see the scoreboard with Mandy and Ash, and we're about to get down to it.
Yep. And then Ash finally gets out there, and they're getting ready, and Mandy and Ash are getting ready to throw out their first Pokemon. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear, "Hey, twerk!" And Ash is like, "What the hell was that?" And he looks up into the booth, and there's Jesse and James on the telecom. She's like, "Listen up, kid. We're on your side this time. So you better dump that skunk and put some spank and leave him spunk." And Brock and Missy are like, they're cheering for Ash, and he's like, let's see. Oh, yeah, Jesse, James, and Meowth, they're all like, yeah, we're rooting for this little punk because that guy is a joke. And then all the Officer Jennies come into frame. And I want to point out in this frame that they actually did a good job with the Officer Jennies and having them all kind of look different with their hats, because each one of the Officer Jennies has a different symbol on her hat to signify that they are all different. So
I guess there's just a crime spree across this island now because there's no policemen in any of those towns.
Yeah, they're all surrounding the stadium. So yeah, Team Rocket.
So why didn't they just like stay in the stands? Because doing this is what gets them arrested.
Yeah, for real.
They're gonna just yell that from the front row. But...
because this is Kanto Team Rocket. They can't.
Also, I was very impressed that they didn't do the introduction that they do in every single episode. They never revealed them and went, "Oh, it's actually me," and did the whole poetry thing.
No, they
I never clocked that. Yeah.
They were more mad as they're getting carried out. They're like, how did they see through our disguise? And then they were like, looks like Team Rocket is being carted off again. I was like, oh, funny line. Boom, boom.
I suppose it's like in the end of season 1 of Power Rangers, where eventually they just start showing a split screen of all the Zords forms. You've seen it now, you know what happens. We don't just show you the whole thing.
We're not going to run that clip of animation. We got stuff to do.
or in the Power Rangers, where they would, instead of when they're morphing into their own stage, I noticed in the later episodes they ran through all of those, the pink all the way up to Jason or Tommy. They ran through that extra quick. Each person only got a millisecond to say their animal, and they were off to the next one. In the original episodes, they got a full blown 2 or 3 seconds, Mastodon, Pterodactyl, but they ran through that.
They reshot it all where they were all in undershirt vests for some reason. When the new guys came in.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, all right. Let's actually get on into the battle. So it looks like they start off the battle with Executor and with Krabby. Do you want
we are rewarding bad. I know he loses, but he's going into a water fight against a water Pokemon, and he brings out a grass one. He deserves to lose.
Yes, for real. He should have had the upper hand, and he had an evolved Pokemon. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, did he literally think that all Executor would have had to do, was literally step? I mean, because if you were going on a sheer size perspective, yeah, but then once you factor in attacks, I mean,
Krabby's
Yeah,
so
grass is
small.
super weak to the stage. So let's bring out a
Yes.
grass one as my first Pokemon. Fantastic, well done.
Because he's so tall, really, and he'll just step on him. So Misty is talking shit on this whole thing. Krabby's barely battled. What are you doing? If you're gonna do that, you could have at least called out Squirtle. Under her breath, loud enough for Brock to hear. She
The
said,
worst part is it works. That's the dumb thing. He ignores everybody who works.
because you see, Ash has grit. He knows, he sees your tactics and he spits in their eye. I mean,
if it wasn't for the fact I didn't know that he doesn't win this for like 20 years, I would say he's got plot armor.
Yeah, he's literally been in every single Pokemon League and finally got lucky. I still need to watch that battle, by the way. I want to see that Pokemon League episodes. I still have yet to watch those.
He doesn't age somehow. So he's gone through all these different generations of Pokemon, but he should be like 30 by now.
No,
that's just par for the course in animation. I mean, the Simpsons kids have been 10 and 8 for 32 years.
Yeah, I was about to say Ash is in the new episodes they made a perfect statement saying Ash is still 10. He's still 10. He hasn't even grown 1 year. They could have made him 11.
In a year he's done every single Pokemon Island there's ever been.
Yes, exactly.
A long year.
A very long year.
All right.
Because there's thousands of episodes of Pokemon now, and you're telling me each one of those is not a day? Come on. I mean, for God's sakes, you spent like 5 days on Mewtwo Island battling Mewtwo. Come on.
Yeah, but that didn't happen, remember?
Yeah,
it's all a fever dream. He was attacked by like the first Pidgeotto he fought, and he's been fever dreaming this entire season.
So in the Pokemon, so we have Krabby and we have Executor, and Mandy looks out and he's like, Executor, Psy Wave now! And Executor does it, and it skims through the water, and Ash is like, dive into the water and then harden. And then Krabby does what he says. And...
Krabby should just sink, right?
Yes.
For real. Well, he kind of does, because he jumps in the water and you just see him just sink into the bottom. Like, you are such a dumb crab. But the hero...
they haven't done the whole thing where, like, you know how they say their names? Krabby, for some reason, is the Cookie Monster. And so it's even more so when he evolves. He's going cookie, cookie, cookie. And when he evolves, he sounds like the Cookie Monster go, cookie, cookie, cookie.
And now I'm not going to be able to unhear it.
I'm not going to be able to unsee that now. Thank you.
So poor Krabby gets literally tossed in a whirlpool. And, he's, by all logic, he should be done. And in mid-whirlpool,
him, right?
Well, no, they want him to. They're like, "Oh, switch it out. Krabby's sunk."
I think he does try, but they say something like the whirlpool is stopping him.
Yeah, because when he, I blame Krabby on this. So the water, as they animated this episode, so the water is spinning around Krabby. Krabby got the bright idea to jump into the whirlpool. The whirlpool
he got sucked into it now.
No. I clearly see a jump. This little dumb crab jumped
pushed.
You can't ever blame the Pokemon. You got to blame the trainer. The trainer told him to harden and then sink.
Yeah,
as like his first move.
Fucked him from jump.
All right. So he got sucked in. So he gets sucked into the whirlpool, and the whirlpool is just twirling him around in circles and circles. And this Krabby acts like he has the brain of Misty's Psyduck, and it doesn't get hurt at all in this whirlpool. Let's point that out. Number one, like it's
one of those arena effects that just like make it harder to attack.
Yeah. So, and then at this point, what was the next move? Egg Bomb.
Egg Bomb.
And he tells
not one hits.
And he tells Executor to use Egg Bomb, so the eggs fly into the air and they go down and they start splashing in the water. And Ash tries to call Krabby back, but he is unsuccessful because the wave is way too, or the whirlpool is way too fast for him. and
Ah.
and then the announcer makes note of while Executor is standing there, the water is splashing Executor, but he must be super trained because it's not affecting him at all. Carl, you want to go over this next part?
What, like, the Executor, the grass type, I guess he was weak and white because you shouldn't, because then immediately, like, Krabby gets out of the whirlpool and clasps onto him and wins.
Yeah, with a vice grip.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
vice grip, and then what move does he use?
Executor tries to use hypnosis, but he fails.
So,
Right.
like, again, this trainer, the Amazing, or whatever the hell he's called out a grass type in a water zone to fight a water Pokemon, did more damage to himself than anything the Krabby did, and then it got, like, one-hitted.
Yeah.
And the poor Executor gets curb stomped, and I won't hear anything
I'm pretty
else.
sure all of his life bar was taken by his own attack that his trainer
Right.
told him to do.
And
He got. Let's also point out that this really experienced Executor got caught off guard by a Leer attack from a level 1 Krabby.
Yeah, and because he was so damaged from the water, because he's a grass type and it's super effective, that's why Krabby wins, which then immediately levels Krabby up to like level 20, which is why he evolves.
Yes. So it's at this point Krabby falls, and as you said, Carl, the life bar just goes down. We get the little swirlies on the eyes, and Krabby is now your winner. And then from here, immediately evolves into a Kingler, which is not against the rules, everybody.
Which again, it doesn't change what it says, it just now sounds more like the Cookie Monster saying cookie, cookie,
Cookie, cookie, cookie, cookie.
a deeper voice.
Exactly like the Cookie Monster.
So now Ash has been rewarded with his stubbornness and his ignorance, and so now he's got
The trainer he's facing is an idiot who splashed his own water type and killed his own type with his own arena effects.
And then he doubles down on the fact that it was a boneheaded mistake because he throws out a Seadra who, if he'd have thrown out in the first place, that Seadra would have had Krabby for lunch, and then we wouldn't be having this discussion.
For real. But well, maybe.
No, he would have had him for lunch. There's no.
Yeah, now Krabby's like level 20 because he beat level 20. He got so much experience now. That's why he leveled up.
So I mean, now Mandy has thrown away any advantage he would have had because now we're on level footing. Because obviously,
they're both idiots in this fight. The way this fight should have gone, as we've been playing the entire time, is Pikachu, zap, Pikachu, zap, Pikachu, zap, fight over. But that's not what happens. Ash just wins for being less of an idiot.
For real, all he had to use was this Krabby, his Squirtle, and then Pikachu at the very end. I think that would have made this episode so much better. I mean, I'm sitting here laughing with you guys going over it, but we could have had Ash get down to his final Pokemon. He sends in Pikachu, and then he wins because electric and water don't mix. And I mean,
Pikachu's one attack would have like electrified the entire stage.
Yeah, they could have blown up the water with how experienced Ash's Pikachu is. So let's not throw that away either. But
so it's Kingler versus Seadra. Mandy is down 1, and Seadra is using its agility to his advantage, dodging all of Kingler's water gun attempts.
Yes.
And think, Kingler's on the back foot because, he's dodging the bubble attacks now, and, Kingler being just evolved, it's kind of the...
It's still kind of slow.
It's the Lieutenant Surge's Raichu effect. How Lieutenant Surge basically jumped to do the evolution, so Raichu never picked up the agility he would have picked up had he stayed Pikachu and gotten a little more experience that way.
But
But
of course Ash gets lucky again, and Kingler got that one bubble beam on Cedra and just sends Cedra flying into the air. And he's like, Kingler, crab hammer attack now. And then Kingler jumps up, crab hammer, done. It
done.
2 attacks, and I mean, how did this guy get gym badges? I'm just kind of wondering.
Magic tricks. He did all his magic tricks, and while they were distracted, he plucked them out of their pockets.
Or he slept with all the gym leaders.
Oh, well, no, but that's Brock's move.
No,
Or
Brock.
Gary's move.
I was about to say that's Gary's move. Brock attempts, but he gets shut down every single time. There,
Now, how do you think Gary got those 2 extra ones?
because we're getting ready. Hey, Doug, we're getting ready to go into where Brock leaves Ash to go with that one professor, Professor Ivy. And then when he comes back, he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk about Professor Ivy. I have my assumptions as to what happened inside of there." But
Is Ivy a guy or a woman?
it's a woman, but there's theories out there on Reddit that Professor Ivy ended up being a man and Brock ended up leaving. Because when Brock leaves and comes back with Ash, every time Professor Ivy is brought up, Brock is like, "Oh, that name. I don't want to talk about it."
Or she had like a hardcore like BDSM dungeon or something.
Probably.
I don't know. I think Brock would be into that.
Things you'd never thought you'd hear on a Pokemon podcast, folks.
I know. So, all right, Carl. So because I kind of took the last one. You want to go into the next part of this battle with Kingler versus Mandy's third and final Pokemon?
Yeah, it's another water type. What was the third one?
Golbat.
Yeah,
Golbat. Oh no, it wasn't again. It was a Golbat, which immediately like, okay, you've won. You just use your poison attacks. There we go. Fly around a bit. You can't even beat them on the stage. But somehow the same as how he jumped up to grab the Cedra that was flying, he also managed to tag the Golbat. I think because the Golbat like dived towards him, and he was just like run and grabbed him and killed him. Again, just use the gust attacks or the poison attacks or anything else. This trainer, I have no idea how you got this far.
Yeah,
he's not a good trainer. He's just not.
Not at all, because even Brock says, he's like, "Oh man, Kingler is in trouble. He should have an advantage because Kingler is weak against flying attacks." So
yeah, in my head I was like, "Oh, he'll call back Krabby and bring out like Pidgeotto, right?" Nah.
No, not at all. They yell out.
That would have been good. That would have been like an air battle or something.
And this is when they yell out, "Ash, Kingler is weak against flying attacks. Take back Kingler and send out Pikachu." They literally say, "Send out Pikachu."
You know who's super effective against Golbats? Pikachu.
It would have been the perfect combination because you got a flying type. Well, in this game, what was Zubat a poison Pokemon or a flying Pokemon? I know it's a flying poison.
I think it was a normal poison, right? I thought it was
okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So
either way, every single Pokemon this gym leader had, Pikachu could have beaten in one shot.
Exactly.
He was literally stood there the entire fight.
Surrounded by water. I wish I was a fly on the wall in Gary's room watching this fight. Because he's like...
I don't know. You might not want.
No, Gary's watching this battle. So, because he's surrounded by water, which if you just send any electricity into this water, you can shoot up the water with the electricity and hit the Golbat, or you can just hit the Golbat with the electricity attack and freaking fry it and just be done. But no, let's fight.
Or the other trainer could be an idiot and have it dive towards the pincers.
Right.
Yes. But what does Ash do? He sends Kingler into the water, and Golbat goes in and just flies down, and he's like, "Vice grip now!" And he catches Golbat, but Golbat literally gets caught, flies out of the grasp of the claw, and then he's like, "Golbat, razor wind, and it just takes Kingler. Shouldn't Kingler have been fainted by now? Because Kingler has finished off 2 other Pokemon, and he's still battling. He should be tired as hell.
Yeah, but I don't think he ever got hit by like the whirlwind, which
he never got hit by the Seadra.
like he was whirled around why Executor was splashed by his own effect. Like
True.
he was just in the whirlpool, that didn't hurt him. But yeah.
How would evolution work? Because like does an evolution mid battle, does that
Yeah, that's not how that's supposed to work. But
does that put the health battle?
I'm pretty sure that's like a disqualification. Like immediately if it evolves, no, get it off the field, switch it out. You didn't process the paperwork for that one.
Didn't process the paperwork.
Like, you said you were bringing a Krabby, not.
I didn't check the evolution box.
Yeah.
So I have
he literally dives his Golbat into the water.
Yes.
Eliminating any advantage he would have.
And I have a problem with this next one. So I want to know how much training Krabby has done with Professor Oak, because Mandy tells Golbat, use your Mega Drain. And as he's getting ready to use Mega Drain, Ash tells Kingler to use Hyper Beam. Where the hell did Kingler learn Hyper Beam? Because in the anime, they gotta train with these moves. So was Professor Oak teaching Hyper Beam to both Gary and Ash's Krabby just on his spare time?
Krabby even learn Hydro Beam? Like in the game? I'm pretty sure he can't. I'm pretty sure that's like a Dragonite move.
For real.
How does Ash know what that even is?
Exactly. So I have so many questions that do not get answered.
What should have happened here is Ash should have gone, use Hyper Beam, and Krabby should have just looked at him like,
What?
Hyper Beam?
Yeah, what is a Hyper Beam? But of course he gets the Hyper Beam. He hits Golbat with it and just fries Golbat. Golbat falls into the water. Well, no, he falls onto the stage.
He falls on the stage, yeah.
And he's fainted. And they're like, Golbat is unable to continue. The victory goes to the team of Ash and Kingler. Not Red and Kingler. It's Ash and Kingler. Just to throw that out there.
Again, the announcements made no sense in the first. Between the battle that was on before and this one, if they just said somebody's name there, it would. They don't care. 10-year-olds are watching it.
Right, yeah.
They're here to see Ash.
They're coming down off the sugar high. We got to keep this moving.
There is Gary and Ash's opponent and Red Shirts.
Yep. So Ash wins this battle with one Pokemon. One Pokemon, everybody. He Krabby into Kingler and just crushed.
Kingler should just be like one of his best Pokemon he keeps for like forever now, right?
For real. Yes. I mean, at this point, I would think Kingler is better than his damn Squirtle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, because by all logic, Squirtle should, at the very minimum, be a very high-level Wartortle.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Unless Ash is just literally that kid pressing B.
I don't understand. I mean, I get, sentimental value, but at a certain point, you don't want to be running around with a level...
Ash, do you want
Squirtle.
a cute one, or do you want a war tank of water? Do you want a turtle tank?
You've seen Blastoise. You know what can happen.
You should tell Squirtle and pump him up and just say, evolve into this big Pokemon and you will be unstoppable. But no.
You got to go through this weird growing phase where he looks like Thor, but like...
Just think about Hydro Pump, for goodness sakes. Think about the cannon, Squirtle. Think about the cannon.
You get a cannon. But at this time, Mandy kind of gets on all fours and he's like, oh, I've lost. I can't believe I've lost. Ash is celebrating. He's like, I did it. I did it. And he's being congratulated by Misty and Brock and Togepi. And Ash jumps over and gives big old Kingler a big old hug. All right. So, and I have a problem with this scene too. And people are like, well, why are you tearing this episode apart like this? Because it makes no sense. Ash's Krabby was the smaller of two Krabbies between his and Gary's, right? Mm. So it evolves into Kingler. Shouldn't it still be a smaller Kingler? He goes and gives this Kingler a hug, and this Kingler is almost 3 times the size of Ash now. And this
Well,
thing wasn't even bigger than his shoe.
How
Yeah,
evolution works,
but
you know?
but my rationale to that is Kingler has to have a baseline size. Because if a Pokemon evolves and stayed the size it is, you'd have a bunch of like small
Blastoise that are like the size of
Yeah.
a turtle.
yeah.
I mean, I
So,
get that, but I'm living in a day and age now where when you actually catch Pokemon in the Pokemon game, they all have sizes. And even though if you catch an extra small Pokemon, when it evolves, it's still an extra small Pokemon. It might be a little bigger, but it's still
Yeah,
an
but,
extra
like,
small Pokemon.
This was before that was invented, and also really
Right.
until like the last 5 years, they were just sprites on a screen that just said they're smaller.
Yeah, you
I
guys are
mean,
right.
you could be here all day.
Like,
if
I'm
you-
not like we make fun and pull apart the logic sometimes because we're adults watching a kids show and it's just fun to do. But we want to hold the show to at least following the rules of Pokemon, the games, the card games, all that stuff.
Yes.
Because if they're not following those rules, what are we doing?
What are we doing here? Really, for real.
So, but we do go through a few montages of everybody from Pallet Town. They are celebrating. Team Rocket is looking on. They're like, yeah. Well, I say he beat him and he swiped him and good for him. And there he's Meowth is just happy, and Jesse and James are like, yeah, you're right.
Should they
And
be in jail?
yeah, they should.
Yeah,
Well,
they were just. How did they get back?
I think they just got kicked out of the stadium.
So
No,
they should just never be able to attend these events ever again, right?
yeah, for real.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
they're-
their faces and Team Rocket should just be like their faces should just be on every billboard. Do not let these people in. They will try and steal.
Yeah,
And-
they should be on every billboard. There should be a poster up on each of them in every Pokemon Center.
Just like the very
You know.
first episode.
Right.
But Brock does point out though, just like in the NFL, he says winners in the Pokemon League should conduct themselves with dignity and restraint. So no over celebrating after you win. Even
Yeah,
as Ash is over in front of the camera, just dancing back and forth.
I hope this is setting him up for. I know obviously he doesn't win this league, but like I hope it's setting him up for a big fail because again he ignores everybody. It works out, and then he does this. It's height of hubris. This is.
But yeah, that's literally how we end this week's episode. Ash is dancing in front of the camera. Misty is like, "Oh, dignity, with restraint and dignity, huh?" And then Pikachu is like, "Oh yeah, that's my trainer." And then we go off, and it's a to be continued. That's this week's episode. So that was match 1 in the Pokemon League. Everybody, what an episode!
lived up to the hype, I would say.
Yeah, for
A lot
real.
better than like the previous episode was very silly and more joke. This was more kind of based around the combat, which I enjoyed. They didn't follow the rules of the combat. It made not much sense. But at least we got to see the moves and the variety of Pokemon and stuff. So that was at least cool.
Absolutely. Doug, what would you give this on your Dougometer for episodes?
You know what? This is probably like a 4.5. I mean, it was battles. There were some funny lines. There was some evolution.
It had everything.
We didn't get any Team Rocket nonsense where they were like trying to disrupt the battle and they had to, other than interrupting Ash in his backswing, throwing out Krabby the first time. There was no Team Rocket BS.
Yeah, Team Rocket is pretty tame when it comes to the Pokemon League. Outside
I
of
feel like
outside
They're
of
not
last
getting
season.
in after they tried to steal the torch, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting anywhere
Right.
close.
So, what would you give this on a 1 to 5, Carl?
It was a solid 3, I'd say. I think I enjoyed it. It was fun seeing a lot of these moves come to life from, the games and stuff, because the games are the things that I've played more as an adult rather than watching this anime. So it's cool to go back and see, oh, that's that move, done in animation. But again, as we pointed out, I feel like I know the shows want to do their own thing, but I feel like they should also be teaching the kids how to play the game properly. And this doesn't do that.
Not
It
at
just-
all.
Like if you do what they do in this, you'd probably grind your way through it eventually, but it wouldn't work.
Yeah, you would be very upset at this game if you were playing the game the way that they do it in the anime.
Yeah,
It's like, right, I'm going up against Misty. I've got to get all water Pokemon.
No, don't do it. For me, I'm gonna give it a solid 4 myself. So Doug, you have 4.5. I'm gonna give it a 4. I liked everything. I did like the battling. I did like the poking fun that Gary had in this episode, and then Gary calling him out on national TV, and then um, in solo words, I mean, it was funny to see Ash just squash this guy that was just mean to everybody and mean to Team Rocket, even though he didn't know who Team Rocket was. So, but yeah. Um, but yeah, everybody, that was this week's episode. It is now time, real quick, to open up my latest Pokemon pack, and let's see what I end up getting. I am opening up a Sword and Shield Fusion Strike Pack. And Carl, what I like to do when we have guests, because normally I do it with Doug, is to have you guess what energy I'm getting ready to flip over on my Pokemon trading cards. So what energy are you going to call out for me this week?
Let's go with theme. Water.
Water? It is a water. All right, there we go. I have a water energy. I have a trainer, spongy glove, a Corsifier, a Sandslash, a Koofant. I hope I pronounced that right. A Gligar, a Slugma, a Skitty, a Phalanx, a Grappalop, and my rare is a Goodra. It's a dud pack. But all right, but that is my pack this week. Before we do end up signing off, Carl, do you want to tell our audience where they can find you and any of your ventures that you have out there?
Yeah, you can just find me on Cypher Inc. on YouTube, named after the Pokemon, because it was something, I think I explained it in the last episode that I did. It just came from something me and my friend did, and it just kind of became our production name. So yeah, Cypher Inc. on YouTube, and also on Facebook, Twitter, and Discord, and all that kind of stuff. We've got an open Discord group. You've just got to get me to send you the link. If the link that I posted up lately doesn't work, just get me to send it to you, and you can join our Discord group that's to do with all of our shows. It's got people chatting on there with the actors and the fans and all that sort of stuff. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And Doug, do you have anything else to say this week before we sign off?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, then say goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
All right, everybody. And I want to thank you again, Carl, for coming on this week's episode. Don't miss next week's episode because we do have another guest. But make sure you tune in next week. It is called Fire and Ice, the next episode in the Pokemon League. So have a good night, everybody, and I will catch you next week.